imagine that many of you will have had the experience where you bought something online and then you receive an email a few days later asking you how was that experience. It could be asking you, was what you'd received what you expected, or whether a delivery had been made well for something you'd ordered for someone else. Recently, I ordered some flowers to go to Sarah, our daughter, and the friends that she'd moved into a new house with. I saw what I'd ordered online, then she sent me a picture of the flowers to say thank you, and they didn't compare at all with what I'd hoped she'd received. So when the "how was your experience" came, I was able to tell the company that she'd been quite disappointed with what had been sent. You could well get something similar if you've been on a holiday or been to a restaurant. Again, recently was somewhere where the staff had been particularly helpful, and they said, "Please can you put a review on TripAdvisor?" What that does for them is it pushes them up the Google list. So if somebody's Googling for a restaurant in a particular place, if they've had good TripAdvisor reviews, it pushes them further up. I wonder, is this something we could put into practice in church? Hopefully when you go out from here, you'll be able to tell people that you've enjoyed the service, enjoyed the hymns, hopefully enjoyed the sermon, and got something from it, but we don't ask you to rate it. Our experiences of God will vary tremendously. For some of it, it might be like the transfiguration for Jesus and his disciples when they went up on the mountaintop and had the amazing experience when Jesus shone and was dazzling white, and Moses and Elijah appeared alongside them. Peter, as we heard, wanted to make the dwellings for Jesus, Moses, and Elijah, and then they heard the voice of God. It's hardly surprising that they fell to the ground and were afraid when Jesus came alongside to reassure them that they didn't need to be. When they looked up again, there was only Jesus. And as we've heard, when they came down from the mountain, they were told to tell no one until after Jesus' death and resurrection. How do you think the disciples would have rated their experience up on the mountaintop when they were with Jesus and encountered God? I'm sure it wouldn't have been a numerical rating, but would have been something that they would be desperate to speak about, despite being told to keep silent. Our personal encounters with God are about experience and faith, not about numbers. The evidence that we have to come close to God, that we have come close to God, will be the words we use to tell our story and the way in which meeting God has changed us. For Peter, the transfiguration was part of his journey with Jesus that changed him from a blunt fisherman to a witness for the gospel. Where do you experience God? Is it your experience to meet God in worship? Is there any space allowed on a Sunday morning, physical or spiritual, for us to be overwhelmed by the brilliance and the voice of our God? Coming close to God is very often something that happens outside our churches. We can experience awesome moments, be overwhelmed by joy, be moved by compassion. Are there thin places in our lives where God is close? If and when we describe such a moment, will the listener glimpse God through our eyes? How often do we experience this and are then able to share it with others? So let's pause for a moment and think about the times and places when you felt close to God. One of the thin places for me is Lindisfarne, or Holy Island, up on the Northumbrian coast, where I've spent quite a lot of my youth in good ways and perhaps not always, enjoying the pubs that were open well into the night. But I spent a lot of time there working in a retreat house and being able to enjoy the island when the tide was up and there were few people around. Being able to walk across to the south shore and to sing to the seals when they were around. We're lucky here to see beautiful sunrises and sunsets. We can see the autumn colours in the woods that surround us. I wonder, do you feel close to God at those times? Or there are particular places that you go back to knowing that you'll find God there? Of course, we need to acknowledge the experience that gives us a sense of God's greatness. It can be overwhelming, upsetting, or even frightening. But Jesus tells his disciples to get up and not to be afraid. He will guide us to a deeper understanding. We can only be witnesses to what we've personally seen or experienced. And in 2 Peter chapter 1, which is one of the readings set for today, reminded of what is told about Jesus is rooted in events which they were witness to. It was a matter in the first place of events and experiences, not simply constructed ideas. And so it's necessary to see something, to then interpret it, to hear something, and then to conclude that it was a voice from heaven. We are part of that, as have many others been across the centuries. The prompting of the Holy Spirit helps us to share in those experiences. We have a part to play in sharing our experiences, our glimpsing behind the curtain, our eyewitness accounts, with others helping them to know something of Jesus and knowing how knowing him was transformed or transfigured us. You may not always be able to find the words, but to simply describe what you've seen in a sunset, or a place, or indeed this place, which is visited by so many and known as a place of prayer over many centuries. It can help to draw the person you're talking to come and look a little more and a little more closer. I said it's the last Sunday before we move into Lent on Wednesday, on Ash Wednesday. Many wonder why this story of the Transfiguration is placed here, especially as in the Church's calendar, the Feast of the Transfiguration is on August the 6th. There's some thought that it's here because it's where Jesus is beginning to speak of his forthcoming death. And so it forms a transition between the Epiphany season, where Jesus makes himself known, and the Lenten season, in which he prepares the disciples for what lies ahead. Lent is a time to draw nearer to God and to learn more about him and deepen our relationship with him. In that we experience more of who he is, ready to share it with others. We're inviting others to come and see. And that's the title of our diocesan resources. and our Lent course. I hope that you've read about it in the Lent menu and the additional update this week. And if you're able to, make sure that you register for the daily updates. There's a link in the menu, there's a link on the update. But if you can't, there are paper copies as well. I want to end by reading Malcolm Guite's sonnet, Transfiguration. For that one moment, in and out of time, on that one mountain where all moments meet, the daily veil that covers the sublime, the darkling glass felt dazzled at his feet. There were no angels full of eyes and wings, just living glory full of truth and grace. The love that dances at the heart of things shone out upon us from a human face. And to that light, the light in us leaped. We felt it quicken somewhere deep within, a sudden blaze of long extinguished hope trembled and tingled through the tender skin. Nor can this darkened sky, this darkened scar, eclipse that glimpse of how things really are. I've already referred to the Lent menu. It's this document here that you may have picked up last week. There are some to pick up today. It is also on the website. So if you receive the weekly update, there's a link on there that will take you to the website where it's all there in Technicolor for to be able to see everything. On Tuesday, there will be pancakes at the Christian Centre between 12:30 and 1:30 and 6:30 and 7:30. And here in St Mary's, we'll have our pancake party between 4 and 5:30. So that's for any little people, but if you want to come along and have a pancake between then, you're very welcome. And then on Wednesday, we have our service to mark the beginning of Lent at 8 o'clock, service of Holy Communion, 8 o'clock in the evening, with the imposition of ashes. I also sent out, as I said, an email in the middle of the week to talk about Come and See. So the diocese have published some new materials for us to look together at the Beatitudes. Each week there'll be a film that Stephen Croft, our bishop, has made, and some teaching about that. You can receive a daily reflection by email if you register. That will come to you on your email from Wednesday. There are some little books at the back that are called Pilgrim Journey, that are the Beatitudes, and they will be very similar. So again, a daily reading for you, very similar to the emails if you can't receive those. On Wednesday the 1st, we start our Lent group here in church. I know that one of the home groups is going to be coming. Remco's home group are coming. So please come and join with the people from the other churches to go through each week as we think more about the Beatitudes and deepen our faith with Jesus. Our sermons on Sundays will be based on the themes. Thursday morning will be based on that. So you'll be well and truly soaked within the Beatitudes and the Come and See theme. Come and see, an invitation for everybody to come and see who Jesus is. We've got some books recommended. This one is by Sally Welch. Some of you may have had her Advent book. It's called Sharing the Easter Story, something for each day in here. There's this one that's called Women of Holy Week, so it's particularly for Holy Week, but again, it's by Paula Gooder. Paula is one of the canons at St Paul's Cathedral, and a very, very accessible person to read. Beautiful pictures in there as well. And then finally, God Forsaken, that's been written by the Archbishop of York, Stephen Cottrell. They're available at the back to take and for you to use during Lent. So please make use of those. We had a wonderful barn dance last night. There were about 60 of us in here dancing away. So thank you to those who helped to make that happen. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that needs to be said. No.